I was doing a live stream a couple of minutes ago and somebody called. I thought I'd turned that feature off, but hopefully now I think with airplane mode, if somebody calls, it won't go through. So my apologies. It kind of stopped in between. So we're gonna get just a really quick reset. There's a different set as you can see. I'm in a different place. So I had a personal matter to attend to. So I had to come home to where I was actually like home where I was born and raised until the age of 5. So here I'm in El Refugio, San Luis Potosí, Mexico, for about a week. So expect a few live streams and coming out of here. And I'll do these a little bit earlier because you're gonna hear a lot of that. You're gonna hear a lot of dogs. You might hear some chickens through here and a few things. Even though we're in the city, that's the way of life. All right, so we're looking at establishing our online brand as a real estate agent. That's super incredibly powerful and needed at this point in time because the home buying journey starts online. At this point, I think we can acknowledge that the home buying journey does start online. If not, I would welcome your opinion. So, whether somebody already knows that they're going to use you as a real estate agent or are starting completely from scratch, you need to have a good morning, Warren. Warren here in California. Appreciate you hopping on, my friend. I know it's early out there. Whether you're a brand new agent, established agent, or the consumer is starting out from scratch, not knowing anything about real estate and are trying to find that agent, I think we can acknowledge that having an online presence, an online brand, is extremely powerful and needed at this point to stand a shot in staying in business. So I know that a lot of established agents that are doing 50, 75, 100 plus transactions, they are very heavy on referrals, and that's awesome and that's great. But at some point, you do need to focus on establish your online brand because even if somebody says, "Hey, use Jaime, he's the greatest real estate agent in the history of ever," even if you get that ring and endorsement, that person that you're being referred to is still going to search you online. They're going to search for your name. They're going to search for anything that they can get from you because they need to see it for themselves as well, right? So there's that validity that, well, I know you're biased because you use this agent, or I know you're biased because that's your family member. So I'm going to do my own research. That's how that person that you're being referred to is going to view it. So I think that everyone can kind of at least be on the same wavelength as understanding that the online presence, the online brand is important. I think where we need to move to extremely quickly in this video is how to actually establish a powerful personal brand, a brand that you can be proud of. But beyond that, it doesn't even matter if you're proud of it or not. What matters is that it's effective. What matters is that it brings you business. So that's what we're talking about. So the very first exercise that you'll want to do as you are getting into the industry or are just starting out in the industry or already 5, 10, 30, 50, 100 years in the industry, it doesn't matter. It's the exact same steps. You want to establish your baseline. So if you're writing this down, there's 3 main points that we're going to cover. And the first one is establishing your baseline. So establish baseline is point number 1. Again, if you're taking notes, I usually have an overlay to help us out, but we don't have that today, and that's fine. So establishing our baseline is the first thing that we want to do in our online business, meaning when somebody searches for us by name, by email, and by phone number, so by name, by email, and by phone number, what do they find? So when somebody goes over to Google and types in Jaime Resendiz, what comes up? When somebody goes over to Google and types in my email, or then email or your email, obviously, that you're sending them drip campaigns on, what are they going to find? When somebody goes and Googles your phone number because you called them or you texted them or you reached out to them in some capacity, let's either call or text, there's really no other, um, what do they find? Because let's reverse engineer that. If you call somebody that gave you their contact information through an online marketing strategy, well, many of them are going to let it go to voicemail. And then once it goes to voicemail, they're either going to hear your voicemail or they're going to search your number to see who was this. Was this a scammer? Was this a spammer? Was this who is this? And what are they going to find? Are they going to find your previous industry that you were in? Are they going to find that you were the CTO of something else? Are they going to find that you were a cashier somewhere else? Are they going to find that you were in college and were organizing an event for your association? What are they going to find? Right? So there's that. That's why we need to establish a baseline. And establishing our baseline is very simple. We go to Google and we type in your name, your email, and your phone number individually, or you can do it together, but individually to see what comes up. So when somebody types in your email, so let's just say Jaime at JaimeResendiz.com, what comes up? What website comes up? Is it even related to industry? Same thing with your name, right? So I know that some of us have some pretty common names that maybe we are not ranking for. Some of you may be, your name may be Chris Martin. That would be very difficult to rank for. John Doe, of course. But to combat that, just type in Jaime Resendiz Realtor as an example. Add Realtor, real estate agent, something that has to do with real estate. So help the algorithm. It can only take people so far, right? So if you have one of those popular names or common names, that's a way around it. But that phone number and the email, that's why it highlights those pieces of information that much more. So establishing our baseline, that's step number one. We're going to go to our Google searches and see what comes up, right? And what's most important is not to make it an exercise, a vain exercise, just to say, oh, cool, I got a lot of people, a lot of websites linking up to me. That's not what that's not what this is about. We are documenting, so we are establishing our baseline, seeing what is actually coming up. And the best tool that I have found, and correct me in the comment section down below if you know of a better way, but the best way that I have found to do all of this intel from beginning to end has been using a project management tool. I personally use Trello. You can use Asana, you can use Monday.com, you can use Basecamp, you can use Evernote, you can use whatever you want. Evernote's more of a note taking, but you can use whatever you want. It's up to you. But the goal here is, the reason that I like using Trello as an example is because I have, in an individual card, I have my entire project. I can take screenshots of what I found whenever I Googled my name. I can take screenshots of what I found whenever somebody typed in my email or my phone number. So I get to see the before and after. So I get to see the before, so I dump everything there. I can take some notes. I can create checklists on my Trello board, on my Trello card, to see, what actions I need to take. So it's a centralized place where I can go into very, very quickly. So, and the exercises does not need to take forever. You can do it all in one sitting if you choose, or you can parse it out into hour by hour chunks. But you know that if you have a centralized place to put all your information into, you can keep up with your project a lot better. That's what the project management tool is designed to be. So again, that's more for that's more from a practical. That's more of a X's and O's, a very technical, um, I guess, suggestion there. You don't have to use any of the tools that I just mentioned, but just give you a pro tip on how to make things go a little bit quicker for you, a little bit more efficient, a little bit simpler. That way, you get to do it. Because if we overcomplicate it, if we put down notes here, put down notes over here, and then it's just going to become a jumbled mess. But anyway, so we're establishing our baseline. That's point number one. That's a very important thing that you'll want to do, establish your baseline. And that's by Googling your name, Googling your email, Googling your phone number. And you can do the same thing for Yahoo. You can do the same thing for DuckDuckGo. You do the same for any other search engine that you want. It just so happens that Google has over 85% of the market share. So that's why we start with Google. If the only search platform that you want to use is Google, great, awesome, fantastic. You cornered 85% of the world. So that's step number one, establishing where we're at. All right. So now we get to see where we're linked. Now, step number two, and again, if you're writing notes, there are going to be 3 points to this. Step number two is establish your story. And I'll let that sink in for a quick second, because a lot of us know that we have a story. And maybe you do know that you have a story, but you haven't articulated it to anybody. So you haven't shared with somebody your why. You haven't shared anybody your what. So what you do. You haven't shared your how. You haven't told your story, and the danger with that, and myself included, for the longest time I didn't have one. The danger with not telling anybody your story is because you're going to let the other people that don't know it, anybody outside of yourself, you're allowing everyone else to tell the story for you, right? So that's why, sorry, there's apparently a BMX racer outside. So that's what, if you allow other people to tell your story on how good, how bad, how um, unethical, how whatever, if you allow everyone else to tell your story, then you're missing out, because it's very simple to tell your side of the equation. And it's not anything that, I'm not trying to make it sound way more than it needs to be, but you need to be able to tell your story and communicate it. So your website, your Facebook, your Instagram, your Zillow profile, your Trulia, it all needs to be working together, because that everything together, that's your online brand, that's your personal brand, right? So that's what we're talking about. And by you taking the time to establish your story and covering the who, covering the what, covering the why, covering some basic information, by you sitting down and writing things, again, going back to having a centralized place to warehouse all of your thoughts, by you establishing all of your points that you want to share out into the community, and either running those points by a copywriter, or by running those points with a family member, a mentor, somebody else, and you really thinking through and articulating, how do I want to be seen, covering all of those points at once, it makes it incredibly easy to take step number 3, or go on to step number 3, which is updating your profiles, updating your online brand, updating your everything that you did on step 1 is going to come back on step 3. That means that if I'll give you an example, real life example. Whenever I typed in my Jaime Resendiz, my name, whenever I typed in my name, Jaime Resendiz, for the longest time, my YouTube channel, this channel, by the way, was the only one that came up. My website, which is JaimeResendiz.com, it was nowhere to be seen. Now I've taken some corrective measures on that. Now it's still YouTube, because it's going to be hard to dethrone that, but YouTube's still number 1. But JaimeResendiz.com, my website, is number 2, right? And I was not able to identify that, for one. I wasn't able to make the corrective measures, number 2, until I did this exercise. So 1, I established my baseline. 2, I established my story, and then 3, I updated everything that I found on step number 1. All right, so if this is making sense, let me know in the comment section down below. Makes sense. Also, the like button is still down there, and if the subscribe button is not selected, then that'd be a great time to correct that. So as we're going through, let me know if this is making sense, because again, on that second step, this is going to be where you take the most amount of time, where you're establishing your story on what you want to communicate to the world. And the beauty of you establishing and writing down what your story is, it's that clarity for yourself, for your business, and then your vision in your career. So from a very practical level, it's a very healthy thing to go through. It's very healthy to have that clarity, because once you're writing things down, thinking through it, maybe you hadn't thought about that in the past. Maybe you're just too focused on passing the exam. Maybe you're too focused on generating business. Maybe you're too focused on doing life, and that's okay. That happens. But now that we have this exercise in front of us, this opportunity in front of us, it's an opportunity to retell the story and how we want to be seen. So again, now we get the opportunity to tell our story our way. And now we're going to push it out to the online world, starting out. So here's the trick. Starting out where we're being found right now. So right now, I bet that your top profiles are probably going to be Realtor.com, if I had to guess, because they just index so well. Your top profile, whenever you're searching, good morning, Campos Realty from North Carolina. Hey, appreciate you hopping on. Zillow, your Zillow profile is going to come up. Probably your association's profile is going to come up. And if I had a guess, of those three that I just gave you, Realtor.com, Zillow, and then your association, I'm gonna guess because I see it. Um, and I had it. Your image is your personal headshot is missing at least one of those. So your name may be showing up, and you may have all of these third-party websites: the Zillows, the Realtors, the Trulias, the associations, the any Home Snap, any other website out there. It's going to have your name and associated to Realtor, but it's going to have different taglines. It's going to have different purposes. It's going to have different descriptions of what you do, where you service. But then we're also going to find some previous careers crop up. LinkedIn is going to be the most, I'm not going to say the most difficult, but it's going to be one of the most challenging ones to dethrone, if you will. So that's why you want to make sure that you have your LinkedIn profile updated with your current brokerage, with your current vision, with your current mission. So that's why establishing your story is incredibly important. I want to give you a good resource to because I went through the exact same thing. I just can't remember the link. I think it's called mystorybrand.com. It's by Donald Miller. The book is Story Brand. Story Brand is a really good book I read last month. And the author is Donald Miller, and I think it's mystorybrand.com. It gives you a good walkthrough of articulating the problems that you're solving, why you're solving them, and it's a great way for you to build your story. So that's something that I went through, and it's an exercise that my real estate agents that are part of the Agent First group, my agents, that's what we're doing right now in our Agent First Accelerator on Friday. So every Friday we gift an hour of our time back into our business, and we're actively working on our business for an hour. No distractions. We just get to work. And this particular month, we're working in our online presence. So this is very fresh in my mind because I've gone through about 3 to 4 different iterations, and the one that I'm most proud of is up and coming right now because we're currently going through it. So this is a bit about establishing your online brand as a real estate agent. This makes sense if you're a new agent and established agent. Everyone needs to go through this because you're continuously evolving. The search engines change all of the time. So it's a great exercise that you can do every quarter to make sure that where you're showing up is exactly where you want to be showing up. So as you're coming in, a like is going to go a long way. It's going to really help send out the notifications. But more importantly than that, take care of yourselves. This is all I have for you today. Expect another live stream here up and coming. If I can be of any service now or in the future, I'd be happy to be just that. Talk to you soon. Bye.